All right. Thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. We're on Manhood Mindset. We're located in Statesboro, GA. We are WVGS 91.9 The Buzz. We were listening to Zany Zoo Radio, Zeta Delta Delta chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated with the Brother You On My Mind campaign. And we're listening live to 91.9 FM. Today we have a special guest in the house, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to ask him to go ahead and introduce himself before we get rocking.
Definitely. My name is James Major Woodall, a candidate for state representative here in District 160. I am honored and privileged to be here with the Brothers of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. So what we're going to do this afternoon, and just in case if this is your first time listening to the show, this is called Manhood Mindset. Now, a lot of people may not understand what that means, all right? The main reason for this show is we are trying to utilize a platform for African-American men to talk about things that affect their mindset, right? And so today what we're going to do is allow the audience to get to know who you are, what your mindset was, what it became, and what it is right now. You know what I mean? And what you want to do with your mindset going forward. So we're going to try to get to know you. However, we're going to talk about a lot of different topics like political miseducation, political fear, political ignorance, and how our part and our responsibilities as citizens it is to the political, I would say, status of our country, right? So I know personally I'm not fully educated on all aspects of political science, right? And I know a lot of people may or may not have had a class in it, that you may have been introduced to it. However, political science is an ongoing thing, right? Political science takes place even in our sleep, and and some of the policies that get shared or created that affect us, we don't know about, right? So we're going to talk about a lot of different things about the mindset that people will need to be in to benefit from the politics that's going on, and also giving them information to help them get the courage to step out on faith and or just step out on the possibility of being something that you didn't even know you could be. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, because you're a young man, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so we're going to talk about a lot of things. So first, before we get into what you represent and what you're trying to do currently, who is James Major Woodall?
Definitely. So I'm 22 years old.
For sure.
And I'm from Riverdale, Georgia. That's about 15 minutes from the airport, Clayton County. Stand up, right?
Hold on, you got to do it right now. What do y'all say?
Squad. But
respect to the South
Side.
Man.
Yes. Zone 4.
Exactly.
But I come from a household where I was a twin. I have a twin sister, a older brother, and a younger sister. And my mom was a single parent growing up, and so we oftentimes had to go from place to place and always in a transient state of existing in the state of Georgia. And so as I was growing up, I began to become comfortable and familiar, rather, with the way things were. Mm-hmm. I believe that what I was doing, where I was, and who I was with was all I had.
Right.
And so there was something deep within me that kind of told me that there was something else out there for you. There was something more that you had to obtain, that you could offer the world. Mm-hmm. And so, working with my grandmother and going to church and going to school and playing sports, those types of things and experiences kind of helped me and shape my life, if you will, to be able to bring me to this point. Okay. But I'm not this, extraordinary. Well, I am extraordinary, but I'm not this person who is put on a pedestal and use that platform to kind of push myself. Mm-hmm. But I'm just an average, everyday person who is just as concerned about the way that our country and our communities is being operated and ran as any other person in this world.
You said something that was very important. You just said you were an average, everyday person, right? Yeah. And a lot of people use that phrase to describe them, but they really don't know what they're saying, right? So average, everyday person, give us some background of what you define as average, everyday person. Because some people say, you know what, I'm not educated. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I dropped out doing this, or I did this and the other. I'm not qualified, right?
Yeah.
So we had that qualified conversation. Can you please elaborate on average guy?
So what I mean by when I say average guy is I'm the type of person, you'll see me in the barbershop every week. You know, shout out to Pastor Jay at Kingdom Cuts. He does me every week.
Pastor Jay, what's up, bro?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But, you know, I go to Walmart pretty much every day of the week.
That's the black man.
But, you know, I have fun. I like to enjoy myself. I like to be just in the midst of people and those who I admire and I love and I respect. And I don't hold myself to, well, I do hold myself to a high standard, but I don't think so highly of myself that I can't be just a normal person and have a normal conversation with other people and trying to put myself higher or think I'm more important than anybody else, because honestly, I'm not.
Understood.
The purpose for me being here is unique, is important, is special. But it isn't so much more special that I can disrespect or belittle or demean someone else because they are not in the position and were not presented with the opportunities I was.
Gotcha. So a lot of people, when they hear the word politics, right?
Right.
And honestly, we've heard, and I can't speak for other people. I've heard the word politics used in a really, really negative way growing up. So anytime we heard politics, oh, don't get into politics. You know what that? You know what I mean? But I heard someone say politics is just making sure the people that have interest in you and you have interest in get the resources that they need and or get the resources that they asked for. Right? And so that's their explanation. But, you know, when it comes to definitions, people love to have their own how they live by. So it's a difference between, and on this show, we try to make sure we use a definition instead of the definition, right? So can you tell us your definition or a definition of what politics is?
So I use two definitions for politics, and one is the political scientific definition of politics defines as who gets what, when, where, and why they get what they receive.
Okay.
My definition of it is just managing our community in the best way possible.
Okay.
And so what that looks like for me in an operational level or in a regular average everyday level is having someone willing to stand up, and though you might not understand or agree with every position that they have, that you're able to believe in the character of that individual, that they shall lead you forward. Okay. That's what my definition of politics is, and a politician should be a public servant. What we find out is that there are too many people that are more so concerned with lining their pockets and ensuring that they have somewhere to, I guess, be in positions of authority and power rather than actually doing the service itself. Okay. And so a lot of times in politics in Georgia, you have a lot of people who are Christian, and so that they use their Christianity and their beliefs to kind of define what politics looks like for them.
Sometimes it's interchangeable, right? Some people, the religion is the political arena.
But what I'm a Christian, and I too read the word, and I too follow the gospel. But what a lot of times we realize is that those people aren't following the gospel at all. They're only following what they want to follow, what's beneficial. So instead of me, using the word as a excuse, I'm going to use my relationship as a powerful tool to push me forward and to serve.
Did you just compare and contrast relationship versus religion?
I did.
Elaborate on that, please, for people who may not have caught on to what you're saying.
Well, religion is a tradition. It's a set of traditions, it's a set of principles that are guided by what we call liturgy and, church rituals and practices that we kind of go on a weekly basis.
Traditions.
I don't want to call it monotonous, but for lack of a better term, that's what sometimes it could be.
Understood.
But a relationship focuses on the spiritual aspect of how you interact with God or whomever you serve. Okay. And so with my relationship, I'm able to understand and empathize and sympathize with people I could never even imagine even conversing with. And in this entire experience of running for state representative, I've encountered people who I might not agree with them politically. I might not see eye to eye on every single issue. Understood. But again, I can believe that the character of that individual is so genuine, so pure, that the person that they are and that the leader that they have become is more than enough to move us into the right direction.
It kind of reminds me of one of the most famous quotes from Martin Luther King that is heavily used to further agendas. Not be judged by the color of my skin, but the content of my character.
That's powerful, yeah.
However, a lot of people just stop at the skin tone. They use that over and over again, not to be judged by my religious or my relationship affiliation.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or anything like that. So sometimes it's just race, but I can judge you right now. We see the term Muslim being used in a negative connotation, especially in the media, right? So now I may not judge you off your race, but it's something else that we've been practicing. I can judge you off of. So when it comes to wordplay, I understand that you have to deal with that as dealing with politics. People use words all the time, right?
Right.
Can you kind of elaborate on the importance of understanding the definition of the words people are using?
Well, definition is power.
Right.
And specifically in politics, as we see with language being written on the ballot and in response to the constitutional amendments and how we depict a certain situation to present a possible solution to problems that we face in society.
Gotcha.
And so people use the articulation of certain words and put them together in a certain particular context so that they can get a desired outcome. But everyone is not lawyers.
Right.
You know, a lot of people kind of presume that, you know, most politicians are lawyers.
Right.
To some degree, that might be the case, but not in the state legislature here in Georgia. So those who are putting together legislation and those who are wording them do so in such a way that they can manipulate the minds of people who are not necessarily educated as much on the issues.
Right. It's left. One of the things I understand that's kind of dangerous in any type of information that has words that are very confusing and vague, things left up to interpretation are usually fall into the interpretation of the people who have the power. You know what I mean? And so if I have words that are not clearly defined, but I have the power, you said definition is power, right?
It is.
Right. So who has the power to give the definition?
Those who write it.
Okay.
Those who write it. And it don't even stop at word and language. It also goes through history.
Okay.
And as we go through history and people say, well, learn your history.
Right.
Well, there are always two sides to every story. True. And actually there's three. There's your side, my side, and then the true side.
Right.
And so we have to become comfortable with supporting the truth.
Right.
I don't want to. Well, I do want to know your side, and I want you to know my side. But we all need to know the truth.
Right.
And the truth is that we have faced in the last few years, and we are facing today, a critical juncture in history.
Right.
That we have to define for ourselves what the power of our purpose is.
Right.
And so once we understand the power of our purpose and the beauty of our dreams, we can move forward. But until we do that as individuals, until we stand forward and say enough is enough, I'm going to be that change that I wish to see. I'm going to do what is necessary to move us into that brighter day of freedom.
Gotcha.
That is what that dream is.
Right.
So we have to be able to define that for each other and for our families and create a type of community where we want to raise our children.
The people who feel helpless, and we talked about the words and the policies and things of that nature, and you just said something powerful that resonated with me, is, all right, some people may have power over certain things. Finding out who you are and what you have power over and making sure you exercise that power is your responsibility. And I think the mindset, and what I'm going to tell you about my mindset when it comes to politics and either my education or my miseducation for politics, just like you said, it's different stories, right? I can't control what someone put in a book and told me this is how things are run. Right. That's a truth. It may not be the truth. You know what I mean? So, because you can put something in the book, but you'll never ever put me in a back room where only certain people are allowed to be in to draft up some of these policies, right? So I'm still miseducated if I'm not invited to that table.
Got to be at the table.
You feel me? And so now I think it's going to be extremely critical for everybody, not everybody to understand, but some people who are really trying to figure out. I know it helped me to respect what I don't know. Right, and it's uncomfortable. You know what I mean? It's so many things, and I think that's the reason why some people are so uncomfortable when it comes to voting. You know, it's a lot of narrative right now. A lot of people saying you need to vote, and then some people are like, no, you don't need to vote, you don't need to vote. What happens is, and I put it like this: both of those statements could be true for that person, right? Right. We can't tell each other how to live. However, the person who's getting influenced, if you don't make an educated decision on your own, you are going to be miseducated on either you should vote or should not vote. So I think the critical thinking and the critical understanding of what politics is and what it could mean for your community and for you as a person, I think we really just don't know what policies affect us immediately.
Well, I think we first, when we understand what politics is, it has to go back to the individual.
Got you.
And we have to begin focusing on identity. And we are in identity crisis.
Right. Right.
Going.
When you say we, who do you be specific?
I'm talking about all of us.
All of us.
All of us. Not just African Americans or blacks. Or I'm talking everybody.
That's powerful. Go ahead.
But speaking from my context of being an African American, I had to come to a point of realization that I was black. You know, because growing up, I wasn't this hypersensitive, you know, black power type of person. I never was.
Right.
You know, I was just a normal everyday person. Just a happy-go-lucky person.
Right.
But I got to a point where I almost broke down and I said, why do they hate me?
Right.
Why do certain people hate me just because the person that I was born as?
I think all of us had that little lonely conversation with ourselves.
Like why? Like what have I done to deserve such treatment, such hatred? But at a certain point, you know, I began to become educated. I began to acknowledge who I was and embrace my reality. And I began to love myself.
Right.
And
that's true.
To love yourself, somebody sometimes might get offended.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the reality.
It's inconvenient if they're trying to take advantage.
Hello. But, you know, at a certain point, you move forward and you say, now it's time to me not only just embrace who I am, but whose I am and why I am the way I am. And so that led me into steps that led me to, you know, come to Georgia Southern, go join the United States Army, and now run for state representative.
Gotcha. So now, what a lot of people, and I know I'm interested in now, the term black or the color black, when it comes to a label that people have to fall up under, that's politics as well.
It is.
And so a lot of people, and I'll speak for myself, I keep saying a lot of people, but I don't want to speak for them, but I know how people think because we're talking to them. But we didn't choose a color, you know, and even, you know, when we put our hands up to something black, our hands look different. You know what I mean? So now we're just like, all right, so what does this term really mean then? You know, if it doesn't really resonate to what I look like. And no matter what I look like, if somebody puts you in a category, you're black without even having to ask yourself, is that something that you identify with? It's almost like being drafted to a team, right? And it's not saying that some people should feel ashamed of it. It's just you acknowledge that you didn't have any power over choosing who you wanted to play for.
Right.
That control politics is something that a lot of people don't get.
So when talking about being a future black legislator,
right,
the reality of it is there are not a lot specifically in this area that look like me that come from such beginnings as I did.
Right.
You know, being, I don't want to call it a poor, you know, person growing up, because I wouldn't classify as being poor, because we were more privileged than 98% of the world.
Understood.
But the experiences that we did have put us in such a position that we had to work hard just like everybody else did.
Okay.
But the fruits of that labor weren't as plentiful, if you will.
Understood.
And so doing what we're doing, I had to come to a realization for myself and say, do I want to go back and go to Clayton County and go back to Riverdale and go back to Atlanta and do politics and become a politician or what have you, or do I want to stay here and be that role model for not just black kids, but for young people all over, for young and old, and everybody else in between, because there has to be somebody.
Okay.
And there are people here,
right?
But they are few and far between, and we have to be able to say, I am that person.
Exactly.
That somebody needed.
You know what? That's what we're going to tap into next, and we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk about the motivation by what you've seen and what you could be, right? The possibilities that you've seen by making this step. And we're going to also talk about what people think they have to do after they finish their degree, or what, you know, different cities they have to think they move to in order to feel important.
Right.
We're going to talk a lot about that, so please feel free to elaborate on your thought process when it comes to that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're located in Statesboro, GA. We are WVGS 91.9 The Buzz. You're listening to Zany Zoo Radio. This is Manhood Mindset, and we'll be right back. That was Big Crit, man. Meditate, man. On 91.9 The Buzz. We're located in Statesboro, GA. We are WVGS. Down here in Statesboro, Georgia Southern. We're on the Zany Zoo Radio Manhood Mindset, man. And thank y'all so much for tuning in. We got a special guest in the house. If you're just not tuning in, we have James Major Woodall.
Yeah. What's going on, everybody?
That's what's up. You just got hood. All right.
I still got it in me just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. You gotta listen up the time. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. Vote for me. Hey, it's the switch. We gotta have the switch, bro, for real. So, just in case if a lot of people have did not tune in last segment, man, we just talked about the whole mindset behind politics, the miseducation of politics, and what people really don't understand. Politics from a group standpoint, from a definition standpoint, and an individual standpoint. People may not understand their power when it comes to politics, and the word politics and how it is used to further specific agendas, right? We also talked about the difference between religion and relationships. We talked about how different avenues or personal things that people identify with can be used for and against you when it comes to politics, right? And so what we're going to do now, we're going to tap into the mindset of James Major Woodall when he made this decision to run for office. And can you tell people exactly what you're running for?
Yes, so I'm running for state representative in House District 160. That includes majority of Bullitt County and a very, very small part of Bryan County, but Bryan County nonetheless. Okay. If and when elected, I would be the youngest in Georgia history to be the state representative in the legislature. And so that is a blessing in itself just to have made it thus far. But the mindset of when I decided to run, I was literally heated. I was angry. I was upset. Okay. I was the state president for the NAACP Youth and College Division. Okay. And so I had, heard about the Guns on Campus bill. Okay. And it was House Bill 757. House Bill 859. Mm-hmm. And I had remembered as a student government senator, mm-hmm. here at Georgia Southern, we had that conversation, and we said, what is going to be the official stance of our governing body here for the students as well as the university mm-hmm. on this bill. We voted, and there were 3 senators, including myself, who voted for guns on campus. Okay. And I had just got back from basic training, annual training and advanced individual training, all those type of trainings, right. And just still gung-ho about the Army and the military. Gotcha. And so I love guns. I love shooting. I love going out and, doing, I don't really want to call it hunting, but right. I like going out there and having fun. Gotcha. So I voted for it, and I said, I think, some people are trained to be able to handle themselves in such a situation that if mm-hmm. they are licensed to carry, that they should be able to do so. Right. But watching other senators, there were only 3 of us, mm-hmm. and everybody else said no. Right. We are afraid. We are not comfortable. We are not prepared, nor are we trained to be able to protect ourselves as something, as they say, the good man with the good gun mm-hmm. protects good people from bad people and go in that end. But we were not prepared, and the university didn't want it. The police department didn't want it. Mm-hmm. The administration didn't want it. The Board of Regents. I had seen not one official representation, mm-hmm. Representative from the UCG, mm-hmm. University System of Georgia, USG, mm-hmm. Georgia Southern, the University Police Department, Statesboro Police Department, Bullitt County Sheriff's Department. I hadn't seen nobody come out for this. And so our state representative, Jan Tankersley, voted for guns on campus. Okay. And that's after the votes had been casted. That's after the official statement of not either it was dissent or it was we oppose it. Okay. I had not seen one positive remark about guns on campus, but yet she still voted in favor. So
let me make sure I understand you and people listening understand you. You initially voted for something, right?
I did.
However, the overwhelming majority said we don't want it. Right. All right. And so then, since the overwhelming majority said no, the representative at the time went on and said yes.
No, we said we don't support it. That was the vote that was cast that night. Right. And the vote was no. We opposed it. We opposed and we moved forward with that. Gotcha. And that was at least a year and a half before this vote this year came. Gotcha. And now, after those occurrences happened, mm-hmm. she voted yes this year. This year. Oh, this year. Okay. And so for me, having that type of representation, mm-hmm. after that bill had went through, she voted for active legal discrimination against the members of the LGBTQ community in regards to religious freedom. I'm all for religious freedom, but I also believe that we have the freedom to practice religion as entitled and given to us in the First Amendment of the United States Constitution.
Okay.
So it's problematic for me when we have someone who isn't, one, visible in the community.
Okay.
Two, we have someone who isn't making decisions in the best interest of the community.
All right.
And three, who only comes around when it's time to get reelected. And so that, by definition, is what is wrong with politics in this country and in this state. And so I had to make a decision. Was I going to allow another opportunity to pass me by that I wasn't going to do what I knew I could do?
Okay.
And I told myself, I prayed about it. I talked to family. I talked to mentors. And some of them were like, you crazy. You are 22 years old. You're just, graduating from college. Right. You haven't graduated yet, but you're about to graduate from college. And you're thinking about running for office. What sense does that make? You still got law school behind, to go to. Right. But something deep within my spirit told me this is an opportunity. This is where God has you to be. This is where God wants you to be. This is where God needs you to be. Okay. Right here in Statesboro, Georgia. Okay. And doing what he has sent you here to do. And so I took the opportunity to follow what was put into my heart. Okay. And use that to push me forward.
Talk about the barriers that you face mentally. Now, you've mentioned some of the things that people said, the verbal barriers, right? Right. And I guess lack of certain support or the level of support you kind of expected, right? What are some of the things that you told yourself that you had to move beyond? Because I know a lot of us, we suffer from self-doubt, especially when we have big decisions to make, right? Right. So how did you move beyond your mental barriers you put on yourself?
Well, I had to, after I made the decision to run for office, I had to convince myself that I needed to, ask people for their support, for their vote, for their contributions, because campaigning and politics isn't cheap. It comes at an expense. Right. And it's very valuable experiences, but you have to pay those experiences, make sacrifices. Right. But I think the most important barrier that I had to overcome in my mind was the fact that just a year ago, I had led a petition to remove the Confederate statue from the courthouse lawn. Okay. And for me, that wasn't necessarily about the statue. Okay. It was more so about standing up for people in this community that felt they were not heard. They were not visible. They did not have representation. Okay. And so moving beyond that, I had, gotten so many negative responses and verbal threats and all these types of things. And I moved past that. I wasn't really worried on that. Right. But going through this experience, it has weighed, it is weighed heavily on me that people still hold that against me, and I understand why. But they will rather vote for someone who doesn't represent them, who doesn't have their best interests at heart on all of the issues, rather than vote for someone who might, you might not agree with on this issue. Right. But you can believe that their character is good. Right. And so for me, that was a little tough for me because again, I understand. I support people who are libertarian. I support people who are Republican. I love those. Those are my colleagues. I support people. Right. It's not about the labels. It's about the people. And so for me, when they looked at me and they said, "Well, why are you here? You need to go back to where you come from, or you don't deserve to be running here in Statesboro and Bullitt County. You should be running in Atlanta." I don't want to be in Atlanta. I want to be here in this community because this is where home is for me. Wow. This is where I want to raise my family. This is where I will raise my family.
You have a right to live where you want to live.
Exactly.
And it kind of boils down to someone telling you what you ought to do for your life.
Point blank, period.
That's clear. All right. Some of the things that you mentioned in your statement was visibility. All right. And that could be a concern for a lot of people, people who may be in higher positions. It doesn't necessarily have to be in city politics or county politics. It can be any type of position of power, period, right? Can you elaborate on the need for visibility? First of all, what visibility means, right, and the need for it in your opinion?
Well, what visibility is people want to know who you are. Okay. If you are a leader in any capacity, it doesn't matter if you're the president of the United States, all the way to the local soil and water conservation coordinator. you have to be visible.
Okay.
You are not someone who is serving yourself. You are serving the people, your constituents, in your community.
Okay.
And if anyone, and I hold myself to this standard because I haven't done as good of a job as being in the community. I've tried, all I could do, but there's always more to be done.
There's always levels of expectations. Right. That's the reason why I wanted you to, is your definition of what visibility means. Yeah, you know what I mean?
You have to be in the community. If there are so many people that don't know who you are, but you call yourself a leader, who are you leading?
Okay.
Or are you just in a position? We have too many titles and not enough leaders.
Okay.
And so for me, what that looks like is I'm going to continue to be in the community. I'm going to continue to go to Walmart every day I can and go to the local, bars and restaurants and bar and grills and all those types of things and just be me.
Funny thing is about grocery stores, you going to see everybody got to eat, right?
Exactly.
A lot of people don't understand. You want to really meet a lot of people. Go to the grocery stores. You'll see all type of different people up there. So I understand the visibility aspect of it. For the people who are not politically inclined, meaning or politically interested on things that go on, because some people are so dejected from the political process. They really just don't care about it.
Right.
My voice is not going to be heard. Some people think it's rigged anyway. Why do I need to vote? What does visibility mean to those people who may not have an interest?
I'll answer your question with not a story, but more so an anecdote.
Okay.
And going around and campaigning and being in the community and showing people who I was and who I am, it has brought such a breath of fresh air to know that there is another choice. There is somebody who is committed to doing what is necessary and who is concerned for the future of this community and the longevity and sustainability of the same. And so when I look into the eyes of that mother or that grandfather or that sister or that child, and I tell them, I'm James Woodall, I'm James Major Woodall, and I remember being in the parade and a young kid said, "Are you Major?" And they were genuinely excited to see me.
Right.
And so for me, that has been the most uplifting part of this experience. But the most important part of the experience was knowing that somebody could possibly believe in humanity again, that they could believe in the beauty of the process. And if we have people who are in positions of power and authority, and they are not present, they think, people in the community start to believe and think that we're headed for disaster.
Right.
And when we have people in positions of authority in the same that are saying we are headed for a disaster, that's not leadership.
Right.
That is insanity. That is fear mongering, and we cannot afford to do that.
I know sometimes being in a leadership position, there are a lot of people who love to say, and me included, because anytime when you don't involve yourself, the best scapegoat is, well, I didn't know. And then no one did a very good job of letting the public know, right? Yeah. Can you elaborate on the need for both parties to have effort, right? Because you can reach out to your constituents, you can reach out to the
parties, as in political parties.
No.
Okay.
No. Not. I meant parties, not
both sides.
Both sides, right?
Okay.
Because effective communication takes two people.
Right.
At least two entities, right?
Right.
Not parties. I would say entities. That's a better word for the conversation, right? So the people who may not be interested in politics or anything that you have to do, there is a level of detachment that they bring to the situation. If I'm already detached and I make sure I remain uneducated politically, I make sure I don't involve myself in things that's going on, I make sure I don't look up policies that's been passed, I make sure I don't understand exactly who's running and what they voted for, my side of the communication bridge is broken.
Yeah.
Right? And so, honestly, I haven't been politically inclined for the vast majority of my life, and I only have a certain level of political education right now. I know I have a long way to go as far as following everything that's going on. And one day I just realized it's impossible to know everything.
Right.
However, I can increase what I know, period. Right? And that whole, it's so much stuff going on, I don't care about it. No, I can't do that. That's too dangerous because ignorance fuels things that control people. Your ignorance. Your 50% of you not controlling your future is you being ignorant of who's controlling it and how they're doing it. right? So can you elaborate on the people who may not be interested, how much their 50% is important to understanding what's going on with you? Because you can go out there and reach, and you said visibility, right? And some of the main things is people saying, we don't see you. How can what do you say to the people who don't even want to open their eyes to what you're doing?
I would say that we have to re-educate ourselves as to what politics is.
Okay.
Because when we first began the conversation,
understanding that word.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because a lot of us have this conception, or rather this perception as to what politics is. It's the laws, it's the government, it's the man.
Yeah, it's the man, right.
But everything we do is political. From us educating,
I had to realize that
to us being in church, and practicing religion, and going through the spiritual relationship, and growing up and going off to college and having children. Everything we do is political.
Yeah, everything.
So
you can't separate it.
We can't. And so we have to redefine, again, definitions is power. We have to redefine what it means to be political, because that's when we start seeing a population that becomes educated, that becomes engaged, that becomes civically conscious. And so that therefore we start getting, and shout out to Dr. Burns. She taught me this in my undergrad in women in politics, gender in politics, is that we have to begin to allow for opportunities and access. People have to become more excited about becoming politicians and writing the laws and defining what it means to be savvy, or becoming teachers and educators, or becoming police officers and becoming a part of the system. Because a lot of the problems that we see are on the institutional level. And so we say, well, it's so much that has to be changed that we can't possibly change it.
Right.
But if we begin to educate each other and have the conversations, it don't have to be a political conversation.
Yeah, it doesn't.
In theory, but in actuality, it is.
Yeah, it is.
So we begin to define for ourselves what it means to be involved and to care and to believe in not the institution or the American, because the United States of America isn't a place. It is an idea.
Right.
And that's what politics is.
One thing I realized, I had a really deep conversation with a younger citizen of this city. He's around like 17, 18 years old, and we just had a conversation just about life in general, right?
Yep.
And we got on the upcoming election and different things of that nature, and we came up, well, no, I'm not political, man. I don't get into all of that, right? And so I look at him and I say, you know what? I feel you on that. You know what I'm saying? Politics, you don't want to get into politics. So I asked him, I said, do you have people you just don't vibe with? Yeah, he was like, oh yeah. There's a whole bunch of people on. He said, I don't rock with them, right? And I said, wow. I said, there's a lot of people you just don't rock with, right? I said, all right, so what does that mean? If you don't rock with them, how do you interact with them? I don't. I said, okay. So if you don't even interact with them, could they get, if they needed your help, how would they get your help? He said, man, they won't. I don't rock with them like that. And I said, that could be politics. I said, what you're saying right now is political. It's politicizing that whole situation. Think about the people who are running for office who may not rock with you, right? And you may need some resources, but if they don't rock with you,
they're not gonna help you.
You're not getting it.
They're not gonna help you.
You see what I'm saying? So I had to, and honestly, I came from a place where I'm not totally educated about politics, but I do understand that it's interwoven. I don't know. Is that correct? That's correct. Yeah, but I failed a lot of classes. Back to back too. It's horrible.
Hey, you made it. That's all that matters.
Hey man, making it is
beauty isn't in the end result, but it's in the process.
Hey, whatever a t-shirt can make. So, but no, it was that little conversation. I had to relate politics to what you cared about.
Right.
Every person cares about something, right? And whatever you care about, it is political. It's a reason why you care about this specific thing. So something that I can do, and I want to get your advice on this. First of all, age does not automatically mean level of knowledge.
Right.
Right. And I think a lot of people need to really critically look at that, because a lot of people who are young, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds are geniuses, bro. They're just geniuses. Extremely smart. But a lot of people have been told and been shown that youth means there's a certain amount of silence that's required of you in order for you to make it, right? you should be seen and not heard. And think about how political that is for younger people. And see, that's the reason why I wanted to talk to you about your whole mindset of being young in politics. It's people like, no, you're young, you're too young, you're not experienced. And that whole experience thing comes up. Experience is political.
Yeah.
Because some people won't rock with you because they think you haven't been through anything. And unfortunately, the youth have been told that you haven't been through enough to have any type of leadership skills or whatnot. And honestly, with me talking to a lot of people in Bullitt County and a lot of young people through like either mentorship or just random conversations. I mean, I went to the fair yesterday and just was talking to certain people. They'll give you some type of advice that'll save your life, and they're maybe half your age. You know, it's people who are 5, 6, 7, 8 years old who've been through some of the most traumatic life experiences on the planet. They can give you some advice to help you get your life right. You feel me? But I think I've underestimated how politically removed the youth are and have been too, not by choice. I'm talking about how people say you're young. You're too young. You're too young. And I understand that you may be the youngest person to have this seat in history. Is that correct?
In the state of Georgia.
In the state of Georgia.
But I would disagree. I don't think,
Cool.
I completely believe that this generation of millennials are more politically engaged than anything we've ever seen.
Understood.
And we push that I would be the youngest in history because it is true that I would be and I will be the youngest.
It's a fact.
And it's a fact.
Right.
But it's not to highlight that I'm young.
True. Okay.
But it's to highlight that being young isn't a burden.
True.
Nor an obstacle to overcome.
Understood.
And it's an opportunity
Young
to
youth.
regain passion, innovation, and new ideas. I see the world in a different perspective than someone who has been here for 50, 60 years. And that's not to discredit what they have done, because that is also valuable. But we cannot live in a better community. We cannot create and build a better community if we continue to throw out the largest demographic of people in our country.
What I heard you say is to be young or have the youth is a needed perspective.
It is.
It is a needed
perspective. It's an essential perspective.
Youthfulness is energetic. You need energy to get things done, right? Honestly, sometimes to be young is to be misunderstood.
It is.
Right? And so the young people, quote unquote, and you can be young at heart, you can be physically young, you can be spiritually young, you can be mentally young.
Right.
And that's another word that people may not understand what the total definition may be. Inexperience doesn't mean lack of intelligence or a lack of will or a lack of knowledge, period.
So, lack of time.
Lack of time. You know what I'm saying? So somebody who's listening who's extremely young, who has been told that they can't do things because they're young, I'm pretty sure somebody's listening to it. And now they got to make a decision of how they're going to fix their mindset to get over that barrier of even people who have, who love them, who have done the most for them. And it's kind of hard to go against people that love you and that you can count on, especially if they sell you things that can pretty much kind of rip your dream in half, right? So that mindset of that young person who may be listening now, young doesn't mean can't. You know what I mean? Now, young could be inconvenient for a lot of people who are used to older people. Young can be inconvenient, but it doesn't mean can't. You feel me? So what do you feel about that?
I think being young and that person who's listening and, might be in college or, might just graduated in high school or maybe even middle school. Well, middle school kind of kicking it, but even them too. But we have to begin to break out of the confines that we have set for ourselves.
Exactly.
And that for people who have set for us, you graduate high school. If you don't get a job, if you don't join the army or the military, you go to college.
Okay.
And for too many of us, we are not satisfied with the traditional way of life.
Right.
We don't want to go 12 years of primary, secondary education and then go to 4 years of college and then go join a career and you retire in 20, 30, 40 years.
At the
and
same job.
At the same job, and then you die.
You're right. Right.
And for those who are doing that, I don't, talk bad and knock you for it. But the reality of it is we are in a new day and age where people are transient. They're moving around. They're traveling the world. They're experiencing new things and learning new languages and doing things we have never even imagined. I just heard President Obama is planning to send people to Mars. We would never have even imagined that. So those young people and even some older people who are looking to reinvite and reinvent themselves, we say, find out why you're here and take control of who you are, because there is not a single guarantee that you will live another day. And I had to come to terms with that as a soldier in the United States Army. I don't really like to talk about it because, I haven't been deployed, and some people think because you haven't been deployed, you are less of a soldier. I have served and I've done my duty, but as a soldier I joined the United States Army at the age of 17. And most 19-year-olds, after going through my training or what have you, but most 19-year-olds don't have to ride a wheel. Most 19-year-olds don't have to ensure that they have to have life insurance.
That's deep.
And find out who's the next of kin, who's going to be able to provide for your family if and once you're gone. You don't get that perspective.
That's real.
Even some 30-year-olds don't get that.
You're right.
And so for me, my mindset was pushed forward. And I had to come to terms with who I was really, really quickly because I didn't have much of a choice.
Right.
Am I going to be okay with what I have done while I had the opportunity to do it? And so looking at the structure of my family, I quickly learned, I said, I'm literally the last male in my immediate family with my last name. So if I'm willing to push forward a legacy of greatness and service, am I going to make my children proud? Am I going to even have children? Because I might not even make it that far. Am I going to make my wife proud?
That's a thought process a lot of people have.
Yeah.
And nothing guaranteed, right?
Nothing is guaranteed.
Bruh, thank you so much, man. I mean, I'm enjoying the show. I hope somebody who's listening is getting a lot, man. I'm learning a lot right now. What we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to have a couple of songs come up. You will be listening to Outkast if this is my show.
Dungeon Family is amazing,
yeah,
y'all.
I'm telling you, if you don't like Dungeon Family, you need to just lay down under a car right now because I'm finna play a whole bunch of it. All right?
Roll around a couple of times.
Exactly, man. So we're going to get into some Outkast, hopefully some good mob and whatnot. But for everybody who likes, I'm going to get into some Chance the Rapper first, right? Or he's a really, really good rapper. And I'm trying to get into some of his new music as well. So I'm going to download some stuff and see if we can get that listened to immediately. But what we're going to do next is talk about specific policies that you feel strongly about. And, we talked earlier, you mentioned your website and some of the things that you put up there for people to research on you about and things that you want to see move forward. So we're going to get kind of knee deep in that and find out what your thought process, what your mindset was when you came up with some of those initiatives, and where do you see that going in the future, right? So ladies and gentlemen, man, you still listening to Manhood Mindset on 91.9 The Buzz. This is Zeta Zoo Radio with the Zeta Delta chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. We will be right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Zeta Delta chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Manhood Mindset. We're located in Statesboro, GA. We are WVGS 91.9 The Buzz. And ladies and gentlemen, we have James Major Woodall. He's elected to come and share some time with us and educate us on the political process and his part in it. So right now, what we're going to do is talk about some of the things that people may not know, the whole voting process right now, early voting, registration, all of that good stuff. So can you kind of give us a nice little rundown about the timeline of voting?
Definitely. So we're in the process of doing early voting right now. It's every day until from 8 in the morning to I believe 5 in the afternoon. Okay. They have Saturday voting next week at the Honey Boeing Building downtown Statesboro. All right. But I want to highlight something that we are as a campaign. We're pushing for the student body. We have voting on campus. Oh wow! On next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Tuesday, we're going to say women get out to vote. So all of the women on Georgia Southern's campus, we ask that you go out and you vote on Tuesday in the Russell Union Ballroom. On Wednesday, we're asking all Greeks get out to vote. Greek community is important
Right.
in the process of civic engagement. And so as a members and leaders in the community, we want you all to lead the charge to get people out to vote on next Wednesday here at Georgia Southern.
Okay.
On Thursday, millennials get out to vote. If you aren't a woman or you aren't a Greek, you can vote on any day you want to, but we're going to focus on millennials specifically on Thursday and say we're going to get out to vote on this campus and in this district, and we're going to win in a major way.
For the people who are like, well, if I don't want to vote that day because it's not my day, can you go ahead and tell them just to go out there on the day you can?
Yeah,
you can
go out there whenever. Just make sure you vote. I think that's the most important part.
If they don't have a ride, but on Wednesday, but they're like, you know, I'm not Greek, I'm not going.
No, everybody who's going to vote on Wednesday won't be Greek,
Yes.
but they're still going to be voting. And so
Exactly.
that's just our, theme for that day, just to highlight some of the leaders in the community. So
You'd be surprised the stuff you hear.
Tuesday is Women's Day to vote.
Is a dude
Wednesday.
There's a dude with just the only ride on Tuesday. He was like, you know what? That's the Women's Day.
Well, you know what? If you're that dude, I will give you my personal cell phone number. Call up to the show, and I'll take you myself.
Exactly. I'm just tripping, bro. Go ahead.
So that's what we're doing. And then if you have not requested an absentee ballot, you still can do that up to November 8th. And at the last day to vote is Election Day, Tuesday, November 8th, 2016. That is the day that we make history, and we win in a major way by electing the youngest state representative in Georgia history.
In Georgia history, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's not what you know, is what you ask. No one knows everything.
Right.
Don't sit down and make ignorance be a permanent status for you. You know what I mean? Everybody is ignorant to something. All right, it's not the worst thing in the world not to know. It's just to wallow in it and enjoy not knowing. That's when it gets dangerous. So if you have questions, there's no such thing as a dumb question. There's such thing as a repeated question when someone totally told you the answer, and those are annoying. However, just a tad, just a tad. You're like, so when is voting? You be like, yeah, just okay.
I'll tell you happily. It's November 8th.
Exactly.
There we go.
So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you understand who's running. Even if you are adamant and not voting, that doesn't mean you have to be unaware of what's going on. At least, I'll put it like this. Even if you're adamant and not voting, right? What if somebody who wants to vote but just not aware of who's running and what they stand for? You may encourage somebody or at least educate someone or stop them from voting in an uneducated manner. You know what I mean? Because just because you don't vote, you can't stop someone else from voting in a way that can still hurt you. Right? So there's just an option. Something to think about, man. So have a conversation. Conversations actually improve nations. So that's what we need to do. All right. Mr. Woodall. If you don't mind, can you tell the people, a lot of people may know you and some people may not.
Okay.
Some people may not even know that if you're running for a certain office, some people have certain platforms and certain policies they are very, very interested in and passionate about. Can you name or will you name some of the policies that you're interested in and what you want to see to come to fruition?
Definitely. So before I talk about my platform, which we call the 3 E's, education, environment, and economics, I'm going to say to those who support me, and I'll say this again live today, you're not only voting for people, you're voting for policies, and you're voting for constitutional amendments. And there's been a lot of conversation about, say, vote yes, vote no.
Yeah.
We are telling everybody who we can reach that we have the influence to vote no on every single constitutional amendment on the ballot.
Wow.
Because we have to do more work to ensure that what those things are talking about, we can do those in a more efficient and effective manner. And unfortunately, we don't have either of the two. So vote no. You can vote down the ballot. You can go vote for Hillary Clinton because I'll leave it at that. But if you don't vote for anybody else, I ask you to vote for James Major Woodall, and you vote no on all 4 amendments.
Now, how did you? What do all those amendments? What kind of emotional response do you have to those amendments? What makes you want to tell people not to vote? Yes to those amendments.
We say no because the one is the very first amendment, constitutional amendment on the ballot, is the Opportunity School District Amendment, which entails the creation of an Opportunity School District, which the governor of this state, Governor Nathan Deal, has the power to appoint and not elect a statewide opportunity school district superintendent that takes all of the chronically failing schools and uses the funds that are being pushed through the local school board. They take the control and the power and authority over those institutions rather than allowing it to the local school boards of education that are elected.
So it's a shift in power.
It's a shift in power, shift in dollars, a shift in focus. And so now they're trying to prep the charter schools and to create a charter school funded through the government. And unfortunately, we have, for instance, we have Casey Cagle, who is a huge supporter of the charter schools. And I have no problem with the charter schools, but when we're using public dollars to fund private enterprise, that's when we have a problem. If they thought that this was a good idea, they would have used it in the state legislature and would have created a law to do it. But because it was unconstitutional and thus illegal, they had to change the Constitution to make it legal. And so I'm concerned that all 4 of these bills are creating a situation where it's not in the public best interest. It's not in the best of the public interest to be able to move forward with these. So we're saying vote no.
Okay.
And we're trying to make the message very clear and very concise. I'm not here saying vote yes to 2 and 4 and no to 1. Vote no to all of them.
All amendments. Okay.
Vote no to all of them.
Message. Okay. Now, people who may not have heard everything you just said or just remember some of the things that you have said, what do you suggest for them to do to research on their own what these amendments are doing? How can they do that? You
can go to Georgia any Georgia political website, HAC. I mean, the AJC has numerous editorials about it. You can go on All on Georgia. They do an awesome job as to writing about legislation and policy. You can go to various networks. Facebook is a great tool.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought that, right?
Like this, or use the tool that made 90% of us graduate.
Right.
Google.
Google. Type in Constitutional Amendments Georgia on the ballot.
Yes.
And it will come up. You can do research and get your own feedback on all 4 of those. And I am knowledgeable about all 4, so I'm not, kind of pushing it away from me, but to make the message clear, we're saying vote no on all 4.
Gotcha. All right. So some of the things that you personally have listed on your website, can you elaborate on some of those and why you've chosen those specific policies?
Definitely. So I'll start first with education. I believe that we have to do a better job of providing our students with an opportunity to succeed, to be competitive on the international market. In the international community. And so how do we do that? If we have schools that are chronically failing, why are they failing? It's not because, our teachers aren't equipped or able to teach, but it's because we, have taken out billions of dollars from the education system here in Georgia. We have taken billions, not millions, not thousands.
With a B.
We've taken Governor Deal has taken billions of dollars, because if I took it, I would put it right back. But I wouldn't have even taken it to begin with. But anyway.
Why would someone take so much money, or some people take so much money from the education system?
Well, because they benefit from it, and they put that money elsewhere to benefit their other agenda.
Okay.
So there's a public and private agenda, hence the effort to change the Constitution. Okay. But nonetheless, I'm focused on education. I'm focused on putting counselors in the schools. I'm focused on stopping the school to prison pipeline. Why do we support and send our students, our children, to private prisons? We have to do our part first to stop them from going to jail tomorrow. So instead of us, just sending them off, we're going to say we're going to invest the resources to make sure you have food on the table. If you, a lot of those students, they don't eat when they go home. They don't have lights on. You know why I knew that? Because that was me sometimes when growing up. So instead of me, talking about they're not passing those standardized tests, I'm going to create the environment so that they can be conducting learning.
Funny thing about standardization is not in all aspects of humanity. Like, you can standardize the test, but you can't, a lot of people may not standardize the support. You know what I mean? And so everybody doesn't have to live a certain standard to where, all kids are not made sure that they get some food before they leave their home. You know what I mean? Yep. However, but you have to take the exact same test. And now a lot of people don't have the same books, have the same tests. You don't live in the same area with the same resources, same test. You know what I mean? So some people can think that it's a setup.
Right. And it's interesting because, I talk about Clayton County Public Schools, and we had our own issues. But the reality of it is we live in Statesboro. Okay. Well, I live in Statesboro. You live in Statesboro. And the poverty rate in Statesboro is overwhelmingly close to 60%.
60% of people who live in Statesboro, you telling me 60%, 6 out of 10 people
live in poverty.
Now, when people use that word poverty, can you give us a some type of definition to live off of when it comes to poverty? What does that mean?
It means that their annual income is less than $25,000 to $30,000
per household.
Per household.
Per household. So,
and most of these families, and it's not just persons,
right? It's families.
And most of these are women and children, with at least 2 children and 1 woman.
Okay.
Because that is the majority that is the makeup of a lot of the families here in Statesboro. And so when you have that happening, and when you have schools like Statesboro High School, and we have educators in those schools, and we're getting reports about what's going on, and unfortunately, there isn't the type of investment that is necessary to be conducive to learning.
Right.
So we have to do our part to ensure that we're adequately funding these institutions, but also giving them the resources, not just financially, but also giving them the human capital to make it happen.
True.
I'm also interested in the Hope Scholarship. As we may or may not know, Hope is set to run out in 2028. Woo! A lot of people don't really think that far, but in terms of government, you have to.
You will.
And so we have to invest the resources again to extending and preserving hope.
Wow.
Because what Hope Scholarship does...
I'm a Hope Scholar.
Exactly.
Think about it. Yeah.
A lot of people can't make it to college. They don't have hope.
Well, yeah, that was me.
So we have to do our part as legislators to preserve hope and to extend it past 2028. And the last one we kind of talked about it was House Bill 757 about the campus carry bill. I'm strongly opposed to it, and we'll move forward from there.
Okay.
I'm also interested in a few economic legislations.
Money.
How do we create? How do we create jobs? How do we create profitable enterprise here in House District 160? One of the things that we're focused on, I'm focused on healthcare, because our lifeblood of House District 160 are 3 things. It's agriculture, it's education, and it's healthcare. So with what I mean by that is I'm interested and I'm committed to working with other legislators to expand Medicaid.
Right.
Because we are paying for other states to have an expanded Medicaid program, but we don't. And 400,000 Georgians, which majority of them live in South Georgia, including some of our district, don't have insurance. We are the second highest uninsured state in the country.
Wow. Second highest uninsured state in the entire country.
And so that means, 1, you have people living in poverty. 2, majority of those people are uninsured and don't have health insurance. So they can't afford to, 1, get health care. 2, they can't afford to get health insurance. So 3, they don't go to the doctor. They don't go to the hospital.
Right.
And what happens? They die. So we have to do ourselves a service, and we have to be proactive and create such an environment that allows them to be able to get the adequate health care they deserve, that they are entitled to. And so we have to do that. And not only just for the sake of the citizens, because that's the most important, but it also creates jobs. It puts doctors to work. It creates jobs. It allows for the restructuring of the hospitals in the rural parts of the state. And we can do that, but it will come at the expense of expanding Medicaid. The last one, it's not necessarily a focus, but it's more so a point of order, is my opponent voted for the House Bill 859, which actively discriminated against the members of the LGBTQ community. And sort of like in North Carolina, they approved it, the governor signed it, and a lot of business left that state. We have an awesome film industry here in the state of Georgia, but if we have an awesome entertainment industry and an awesome sports industry, if we would have signed that bill, we would have lost all 3. So creating jobs is not just about economic development, even though that's a huge portion of it. We also have to take into account our social responsibility as citizens and as leaders. The final thing is environment. The Ogeechee River and the Savannah Rivers, I'm really, really opposed to allowing corporations to use land near those rivers to lay down pipelines and to deposit toxic waste into those riverbeds.
Wow.
That's toxic. That's cancerous. And if we constantly allow corporations just to put wherever they want to in our rivers, and people are using that to live off of, to use, to grow crops and things of that nature.
Right.
Groundwater supply. We have a lot of wells in the area. If we're allowing economic development to trump over environmental conservatism, then what are we really doing? That is in the entire fabric. That is in the most basic level of our foundation as citizens in Bullitt County as humanly possible.
Well, you, I heard a couple of words that you said, and one of them that stuck out that is very heavily used is conservative, and the opposite of that is liberal, quote unquote. Can you elaborate on what those mean? A lot of people hear liberal and conservative over and over and over again. Some people ask you, are you liberal or conservative? And people are like, I never chose a side. I just trying to live, right?
Right.
So can you elaborate on your thought process on those two words? What do those mean?
Definitely. So I can speak to my identity. Where do I fit along the political spectrum? I'm all for environment. I'm environmental friendly. I like to conserve the environment. I want to ensure that every dollar that we spend as a legislature, as a state government, is spent efficiently and it is effective in its response to any problems that are ailing our society. Right. And so we're not just spending money for the sake of spending money, but we're spending it and it goes somewhere and it affects lives and it changes people for the good. I'm concerned about that. Right. So when we're doing different things and we're enacting different laws, it's not just about Democrat or Republican, because I might be a Democrat, but I support a lot of what some of the Republicans are doing because I truly believe that they have the best interests at heart. And unfortunately, some people support people just because they're Republican. Some people support them just because they're Democrat. But on this experience, in this journey, I've learned that some people capitalize off of the vulnerabilities of people because they see labels and they don't see character. And
that's labels. What I've seen about labels are used to put people in their place, right? And, you know, a lot of people actually say know your place. You know what I mean? And they just because you may identify with a specific background, that doesn't mean you agree with every single thing.
Right.
And so sometimes when people can get politicized in are you liberal or conservative? The good question that pops in my mind is what are you liberal about and what are you conservative about?
Right.
It when you pick a side without understanding exactly what you're talking about, is that really being just pretty much a responsible citizen?
Right. Be educated, be informed, be engaged.
Right, because if you're liberal about everything, I don't know what could happen. If you're conservative about everything, I don't know what
That's why I like the word moderate.
Right.
I'm in the middle.
Right.
I know how to weight both options and see where we can go forward. Like somebody said, you know, you run as a Democrat, but you're pro Second Amendment. How does that work? What?
Yeah.
You know, I can support the Second Amendment. I support what we've done thus far, and those things that I don't support, I'm going to work to, you know, change and make it better.
So a lot of people who don't know how to pick between liberal and conservative, just tell them I want to think. Yeah. Thinking is cool.
You see how simple that is?
Like, I want to think about what we're talking about.
That should be a political party, the Think Party, because we got some people in both parties that don't want to think about nothing.
Hey, Thinkers 2020.
Thinkers for president.
Thinkers for president. Like, that's funny, man. The liberal conservatives and the thinkers, right? And then you got somebody who, well, you the thinkers, we the doers. So, you know what I'm saying? But, I mean, that's a, I think that's a little bit of a confusing tactic. Liberal, conservative. Liberals, left and right. The division that you have to pick a side, and if you pick that side, you have to stay on it, or you may run the risk of losing the people who are supporting you if you're just not, you know, if you end up questioning something,
right?
You could lose votes. So, because now, I mean, that's interesting. Have you ever been in a position where people have threatened not to support you because of your ability to think about the issue?
Well, there's been several times when people say, you know, I don't know if I should support you now because of this.
Well, that, yeah, right.
You know, I'm trying to think of one specific instance. There's so many that I can't even.
Well, you know, you may not have to describe a specific incident, but just tell us that thought process of going through how that felt.
Well, there was one instance where, for those who don't know, there was a young man killed here in Statesboro about a few weeks ago, and I, as as a lot of people saw, that I made comments that I do support the police.
Okay.
I support our police officers. I support what they do, the service that they commit to our community. And so there were two sides to that. I got a lot of good feedback, and the response was, I thank you for what you said, because that could have been taken so out of context and what happened. And, it was just genuine. It came from the heart. Right. I support them, what they do, and we need to believe and trust that the process will allow for the facts to come out. Okay. And it did. But some people were so, upset with me and saying, I support the police. Right. I said, why is that so problematic for you to believe that I can support the police while still supporting the truth? So that was a little, I don't know if
you have to pick a side.
Yeah, it's not about choosing who you support, because some people think Black Lives Matter is about this and Blue Lives Matter is about that. I support our community.
Yeah, people. No matter what they choose to be, liberal or conservative.
Right. I'm going to fight for both of them.
Right.
I'm going to fight for the ones because I'm tired of seeing dead bodies in the street, but I'm also going to fight for our officers because I don't want to see them killed and shot and belittled either, because they are an integral part. We all have a part to play. We all have a role in this beautiful thing called community.
Yeah.
And if one of us is missing, it's not community.
I think sometimes it gets confusing because I know when we have very, very heavy situations that are emotionally tied, right? And we talk about police brutality on here. We also talk about people who hurt themselves. You know what I mean? We talk about, I think what it boils down to, the two choices, not liberal or conservative, is not right or wrong. Sometimes it's, do you choose either life or death? That helps me. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you can sit down and try to politicize some things and say, well, you can't support this without supporting that, and people try to tell you how to think.
Right. And
anytime someone tries to tell you how to think, you're always going to have some type of discomfort because you were born with your own mind, right? So how can you, and I empathize with your difficult situation because you have to listen to the people you're fighting for. You have to listen to your constituents. You have to listen to your supporters. However, you do have your own mind.
Right.
So how can you, what do you do? And like that's interesting to me, man, because I know you represent people and their interests, right? And sometimes their interests may be, hey, well, I understand your interests and I will represent you because that's my job. However, how I think is my right. So how do you tell me how is that?
Well, it's a balance. Before any decision is made, once elected, and you have to be in touch with your constituency.
Right.
And I want to be a part of that that circle of life, if you will. But before every decision, I pray about it, and I allow the Spirit to lead me, because every part of this walk, every part of this journey that I've taken was all through meditation and prayer and really just allowing the Spirit to lead you where it may.
That's real.
Because I cannot lean on my own understanding.
That's real.
Because there is a greater force that is at work that is beyond me,
man,
that I have to be able to recognize and acknowledge. And if I think that I'm the end all be all,
man,
I'm not the leader.
All right, since you brought it up, we're gonna talk about that, man.
Hey.
All right. The spiritual context of politics. We had a conversation not too long ago that it stuck with me because of some of the comments that were made in a positive manner. I know we talk about different words like equality, equity, integration. I know we talked about integration, and when we looked up the word, a lot of people never looked up the word and were like, hold on, we were fighting for that. Like, you know what I mean? But words that we use have emotional definitions to them. They have emotional ties to them.
Right.
And you cannot control what people emotionally tie to words. However, just like you said, when you say I support police, emotionally, somebody might attach the word police to something they either saw or something that they went through, right? How can you balance that? You already said it got to be a balance, right? But we're emotional creatures, but we do have the ability to add logic in our decision making, right? And we talked about spiritual guidance and spiritual knowledge, right?
Right.
In your opinion, man, let's get down to it. What's the spiritual warfare in politics?
It's between those who want to see better and to see change for not just themselves but everybody else, and those who are just there for selfish reasons.
Okay.
I believe that is at the heart of our discontent with the way things are.
Right.
We have too many people that aren't held accountable, that are too complacent, that do not lead with vision.
Mm-hmm.
And in the word it says the people shall perish for a lack of vision, or well, rather for a lack of knowledge.
Right.
And if we don't have the knowledge to put people in positions of authority that will lead us into the promised land, as did Moses, we will then suffer. And it's not just the responsibility of the leader, but it's also a responsibility of the people to become educated and inform themselves and hold each other accountable. That's the only way this thing will work. We cannot put all our faith in just one person and expect it all to get better. We can't put our faith in just a Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton and think that the world will become a better place.
Yep.
We have personalities across the board that have led us into such a situation that we have to take it back into our hands and say the power is in the people. It's of the people, for the people, and by the people. It's not of and for and by Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton.
Right.
That's not what it says.
Right.
All politics are local. All effect is local. And until we understand that the people that we can interact with on a day-to-day basis can and will change our lives for the better or for the worse, it won't change.
If what you said, right, people perish for a lack of knowledge, right?
Right.
So ignorance breeds death.
It does.
All right. So, and if people fear what they don't understand,
They die.
okay. So in order for us to combat those two statements, people fear what they don't understand, and people perish for a lack of knowledge, we get rid of our fear by courageous understanding. We could do that. Have the courage to try to understand what somebody represents and what they've been through, instead of fearing them and creating that distance. And that lack of knowledge helps you perish. The ignorance and fear, they feed each other.
And let me interject and say this. We say educate and knowledge and inform. I'm not talking about school books.
Exactly.
In the classroom.
Thank you for clearing that.
Because there comes a point where we have to become knowledgeable about what is taking place. And we have to stop seeing things for what is. We see it with our eyes, and we have to listen with our hearts and our spirits and our souls.
Right.
And that's how we move.
Right.
That's how we take control, and that's how we win.
Right.
Because then we can acknowledge and say, I understand. I understand not only who I am and what I am here for, but I understand your struggle.
Right.
And I see your struggle. And I can't change it, but I can make it that much more bearable.
We mentioned earlier about self-love, and I think a lot of people may not understand the depth of the importance of loving yourself. When you love yourself, you do have the courage to improve your life. You do have the courage to ask questions that improve your outlook on this planet. You know what I mean?
Right.
And a lot of people may not understand that the lack of self-love could produce the lack of love for other people. So a lot of times when people are terrified and scared, in order for me to make you fearful, I have to possess that fear. In order for me to make you hate, I have to possess that hate first in order to make you feel what I'm feeling.
Right.
So it's going to be very, very important for all of us as individuals to hold ourselves at a higher standard. And look at words that we use, especially in the political context, when we start talking about equality, when we start talking about power, politics, procedures, voting. Ask for the definition. Because if I just leave those words up to interpretation, I'm leaving my development up to another person that I don't know. We're already not included in a lot of meetings that affect us. We do need to have a meeting of the minds. If we can't be invited to those meetings at those big tables, or a lot of people in suits are invited at, we do need to meet with truth. We do need to meet with courage. We do need to meet with understanding, man. Because sometimes, I ain't gonna lie to you, man, since we talking about spiritual warfare and things of that nature, I've seen people get depressed from a disappointment from serving a false god. When you put people in charge of your entire life development and say, I voted for you, you're supposed to save me. that can lead to a serious level of depression.
One thing you always told me, and you know, ever since I was a freshman in a sophomore here at Georgia Southern, you always say you aren't here to save the world.
Yeah.
You're here to give it a choice. To save the world was Jesus's purpose. Now it's your job just to give it a choice. And so I've always led with that mindset, and I've kind of had to remind myself sometimes, you're not here to save the world. You're not here to please and to make everybody happy.
Right.
You're here to give people a choice.
Right.
An alternative to the status quo.
A new way of thinking, a new way of living.
Bingo.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, what I've gone through a nice little process through our 2-hour conversation, honestly. I'm looking at myself and how I view politics, what that word means. I understand that what I don't know is hurting people. What I don't know is hurting people that I love. And ignorance breeds fear, which breeds a lot of different things, man. And if we want life, we need to find out what choosing life really means. And it's easy to say, well, I choose life, man. What do you have to do when you say, I believe in things that give life? Life is an action verb. It's not a belief. You have to do certain things, right? If you believe in feeding people, I believe feeding people is great. Cool. How many people did you feed?
Hello.
And then people be like, let me hit you back. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So practicing what we say. No one is able to do everything that has exited out of their mouth and things that they believe. However, you can make a valid effort to increase your list and try to cross out some of the things that you put on your list verbally and cross them out with your actions. You know what I mean? Yeah. Something that I put on Facebook yesterday, a lot of people kind of reacted to it, is understanding who you are as a person. Be what you already want to be. I think a lot of us have been told to wait. And that's the reason why I'm proud of this whole process that you're going through, is because you had to really get rid of a lot of doubt that was created for you and the doubt that you created on your own with no one else's permission, right? So the mindset, and that's the reason why we're doing this show in the first place. Having that mindset, and even what manhood really means, we talk about that word, manhood. Mindset, what do those two words even mean? It depends on what is emotionally tied to those words. And who you are as a man, if that's, that could be important to you. But it's definitely important to us. We have to be man enough to lead and take our place on this planet, right, to practice what we preach. And not only that, to overcome our own barriers that we create for ourselves. I just said yesterday, I said, no one is in charge. No one is, don't let anybody ruin your day, especially you. Don't let anybody ruin your day, especially you. A lot of us have bad days because that's what we chose when we got up. There's a lot of situations that we cannot control. There are a lot of things that are out of our hands. And when we talk about politics, we look at how many things that we don't control and that helpless feeling behind it, right? So I would say, first of all, I'm proud of you. I know you personally. Some people may not know that. I've been knowing Major for quite a while. And just your maturation process through this whole thing, man. I've witnessed you. And people from all backgrounds and ages are learning from your whole process. And that courageous step that you say, I don't know everything, but I know what I know. I know this is what I want to do, even if people don't understand it. We said last week that our purpose in life is really a personal conversation between us and whoever created us. A lot of people will not understand it because they were not invited to that conversation. So it's going to be very, very uncomfortable for people when you live in your purpose, because they're not supposed to understand it. And whoever's listening right now, you want to do something better. You want to do something powerful. You want to do something that's never been done, because that's the personal conversation between you and your creator. And people who love you may not understand it. It's not malicious. It's because they're ignorant. And ignorant doesn't mean evil. Yeah. That's what people need to understand. When you have people in your life who may be ignorant of what you want to do, that doesn't mean they're a bad person. It's just because they were not invited to the conversation between you and your creator. And sometimes we just got to look at them and say, we love you, but I know what I got to do. You know what I mean? So you got any final thoughts for the people? And we're going to say a couple of jokes too, man. We're going to at the end on a light note. Sometimes somebody asks me, they be like, hey, do y'all talk about anything funny? Y'all be talking about death and spirits? I was like, look, man, we got to, people need, people tell me straight up, man. I mean, a lot of people don't understand. I do comedy. I find the joke in a lot of stuff, man, but people out here hurting.
Yeah.
People need soul food, bro.
Yeah.
People need mind food, and we got plenty of times to laugh, but people don't understand laughter opens the mind too. So we're gonna have to get some of that. So you got any final thoughts before we get goofy?
Definitely. So my final thoughts would be kind of to touch on some of the things you said is this. We have to get to a point in our personal walk that we have to become comfortable with positioning ourselves at the table.
Right. We
can no longer become complacent with not being at the table. We can no longer accept the things for though they were and, try to, change the things that we can and accept the things we can't change. But rather we have to just say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be at the table because that's where I am supposed to be. And we have to become empowered through our own mindset. We have to become empowered through our own thought process and not allow, like you said, the other people that kind of govern our institutions and govern the daily operations of politics and in our communities to dictate what we do.
Exactly.
It's more than just college. It's more than just education in regards to the schoolhouse. It's about living.
Yep. Life.
Fully.
Choose that life.
Unapologetically.
Yes, man.
It's about being who you were supposed to be, who you were called to be, and do it.
Exactly.
I ask if you support me and you support the vision and you believe too that you can be that change. I ask for your vote on November 8th. And I ask you also to go to our website to find more information at majorwoodall.org. It's MAJORWOODALL.org. Make a contribution. Call some people. Call auntie them. Call grandma, mama, all of them. Tell them to get out and vote too. Because we have work to do, but together we can win in a major way. Thank you all so much.
Last thing before you leave, can you tell people how to find out if they're registered or not? Because they, and those voting booths and polls and all of that stuff, how to handle themselves if things get kind of confusing.
Right. So if you want to know your status on voter registration, text GA to 28683. Again, GA to 28683, and they'll send you a text to show you where you can find that out. Also, if you are having troubles at the polls, you can. There will be a poll watcher. There will be volunteers there that are there to assist you. And if you have any inkling that there is voter suppression going on, please let somebody know. You can go to my Facebook or Chris's Facebook page, and we'll have the number posted there as well.
Most definitely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we did come to the end of the show, but we usually just say something goofy. But we just need to end it on that, man. That was right. That was just right, man. If you want to laugh, man, look up Pandora and type in...
Kevin Hart movie came out tonight. Y'all can go laugh at him.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what's up. There is a comedy show next week at the Pool Hall downtown. People need to come down there and support. Come and get your mind off of anything that may be holding you down. We got some poets lined up, some comedians, and some singers. So Main Street Billiards next week, next Wednesday around 8:30. Y'all come down. Please do. Please do, man. A lot of fun times. A lot of talented youth in Statesboro, man. We had some people from high school come through there. Yeah. I was like, man, go to school though.
Yeah. Support local businesses.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. We'll do so. Ladies and gentlemen, we're located in Statesboro, GA. We are WBGS 91.9 The Buzz. You have tuned in to Manhood Mindset from the Zeta Delta Delta chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. The social action chapter of the year for Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and the Georgia State Champs of 2016. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all so much for tuning in. We love y'all. Tune in next week. Also, if you want to hear a recording of this show, this will be uploaded at the end of this week. Go to youtube.com and just put in Manhood Mindset. All right, Manhood Mindset. You should see it, and this will be titled Manhood Mindset with Politics. All right, so thank y'all so much for tuning in. Please choose happiness, ladies and gentlemen. Everything is in your hands. Control what you can control. Everything else, try to understand.
Peace, power, prosperity.
Man,
y'all have a good one.
Love y'all to death, man. Peace.